So Mark and I have known each other for a few years now. Mark is actively involved in the Chartered Quality Institute, and I was involved in the branch that Mark was leading, was the chair of a few years back now. So I'll let Mark introduce himself, but needless to say, I have great hopes for a fantastic evening with Mark, because he's a very passionate speaker. So over to you, Mark.
Is it passionate, Simon, or opinionated, or somewhere in between the
definitely
two?
Passionate, definitely passionate. We can open the debate about Jaffa cakes later.
Yes. So can we do, let's just try and do a screen share first.
There you go. That's working for me.
So let's just do that.
Yes.
Can you see an introductory slide?
We can. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving this meeting an hour or so of your time today. That's much appreciated. The theme of this evening is to try and give some guidance on how we can more effectively harness the potential of management systems, be they individual ones or be they integrated. And I'm going to do that through a framework that I've been using for some time, called the 6 Keystones of Management System Success. Just to introduce myself extremely briefly, I'm an electrical engineer by original training, had a significant career in commercial construction. Like most quality professionals, drifted into a quality role about 15 or so years ago, just drifted in through a discussion at a coffee machine, and that was very enjoyable. I left Schneider Electric about 9 years ago. I was a global vice president for quality and customer satisfaction at that point. I now lead my consultancy company, 6 Pillars Consulting. I also do have a life. I pretentiously describe myself as an endurance runner, running marathons and ultras. I am a lumberjack, to the amusement of many. I've recently, Simon, become a publican. I have a small share in a public house just outside Bath. I stress it's a small share. I bought it for my wife as an anniversary present last year because it's where we had our first date, and it just seemed a nice thing to do. And I travel with my good lady wife a lot. Our next trip in January is to the coldest part of China. We're going to visit the Harbin Ice and Snow Festival, which should be a lot of fun. I'm not going to yak on about 6 Pillars Consulting. So we're a business consultancy. We're passionate about vision, strategy, quality, customer loyalty, employee engagement, and culture. That's all I'm going to say on that. So for tonight, I'm going to try and stay reasonably close to the advertising and to the brief that I was set. I am going to consider the benefits from an integrated approach to management systems, but I'm really am going to take a slightly different viewpoint, in that for me, if a management system, be it standalone or integrated, if it can't be transformational in its impact, then to be honest, what's the point? And the model that I have found most useful is building those management systems with a mind to six components, and I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour through those. The first is about alignment with vision and strategy. I can't resist a presentation without talking about customer loyalty. Going to jump into employee engagement. I do love a good objective for a management system, so we're going to discuss that. a little look at culture, and then close off with management review. I apologise for all sorts of things. I apologise that in terms of management system standards, I am going to talk about 9001 a lot, but hopefully you will see that the principles I'm extracting are very applicable to other standalone or integrated systems. The 6 components that I'm going to talk about, they are all things I am passionate about. I could talk for a day on each one. I could certainly keep you here till midnight. I'm going to do my best not to do that. I'm hoping I don't have too many slides. This is the first time I've put this presentation together in this format, so we'll just see how we go. And for those who don't know me, on occasion, I may exaggerate a tad, generally for dramatic impact, sometimes just because I like to, but I apologise. Please take that in good spirit. So we'll make a start. And as I say, I'm going to try to talk to you about those 6 attributes. I don't know what I'll call them. Those 6 attributes that, if properly considered, I would propose will have that transformational impact that everyone is looking for. So we'll start, and in a way it's quite good because there's 6 of these, and it will give you a flavour of how quickly I'm proceeding. The first, alignment with vision and strategic direction. My first reference to 9001, it's right at the beginning of 9001 and the other management system standards. It's all about establishing a context for the management system to operate in, and it talks about alignment with purpose and strategic direction. It's a bit of a shame that purpose isn't actually defined. That's a bit of a blow. Strategy is a plan to achieve a long-term or overall objective, and there's also some definitions in 9000 about vision, an aspiration of what an organization would like to become. So in most management systems, something like this is right at the start to give us guidance. But this is the grim reality. I would suggest, and I go back to my apologies, I mean no disrespect in this, but that most management system specialists would struggle to articulate an organization's vision and strategic direction. And it is not the fault of the management system specialist. It's generally a higher level confusion and lack of focus. So it's a problem. And of course, strategies can be grand and at the corporate level, but they can be at these cascading levels in the organization. But as part 1, as conclusion 1, in our aim that our management systems have this transformational impact on our organizations, I would put it to you that we would be rather more successful if we actually knew what the big plan was. So for those of you who like to take notes on what you might ponder tomorrow, what you might to speak to other people in your organization about, that would be my first question. How effectively can we articulate the big plan? The second keystone, the second tool that I have found extremely useful to achieve that transformational impact is customer loyalty. And there's no way I'm going to do a presentation without talking about customer loyalty. It's central again to 9001. The fact it's in section 9.1.2 isn't in the test, but the standard and other standards talk about the need to monitor customer perceptions. Most of the standards actually talk about satisfaction. I tend to use loyalty, and in fact I'm lobbying in various places for the standards to be written to move satisfaction to loyalty, but that's an aside. And I sometimes think that as management system specialists, we probably don't ponder the importance of the customer quite often enough. I do, and I've thought about the model I use for many years, and I used to think that customer loyalty was a behavior. It was the act. This is an image of a good Italian family going to their local supermarket and choosing pasta, and it's the loyalty is you go once, the store is well lit, people smile at you, you go again, you go several times, and all of a sudden you're a loyal customer. My learning, my journey though, is that those behaviors are extremely confusing. People exhibit those repurchase behaviors for all sorts of reasons that may not be that loyalty. It may be because of a contract, it may be because of inertia, it may be because you're cheap, it may be that some of your customers have a relationship with an individual in your company. I don't mean an inappropriate one. It may be habit-based. So I've moved from this definition, and I advocate that customer loyalty is where a customer genuinely believes that their relationship with you is in their best interest. It's their best option, and that best option might not necessarily be a direct alternative for what your company provides. I use this example a lot. I'm an athlete, I need to eat, I burn calories, I like a blueberry muffin. But when I'm pondering buying a blueberry muffin, I have options. I have the classic donut, I have Snickers, they're still a marathon to me. I have healthy snacks, but I also have other alternatives. I can put the money towards buying training shoes. I get through running shoes in fact at the minute it's less than every 10 weeks at the minute. I can buy another axe. As a lumberjack, I can never have too many. I can put money into the travel pot. And why should any of us in our businesses care about this customer loyalty? Why, as management system specialists, should we care about this? Well, it's because customer loyalty has value. Loyal customers give us a break when we get things wrong. They don't seek out competition. They spend time with us, helping us improve. What could be more valuable for that? And commercially, they have an increased willingness to spend. The sad truth, and I suspect again that we're all guilty of this, is that customer loyalty is considered important unless doing something about it is hard, or we're busy, or heaven forbid we may lose some money. So my second ponder, in my desire to help all of us be more effective with our management systems, to be more transformational in our impact, my second question to you is, would it be a good idea if we actually knew what the loyalty profile of our customers, and they can be internal or external customers, if we actually knew what that was from the most loyal to the least loyal, and if we actually knew what was contributing to loyalty and what was harming it. It might be a good ponder.
Mark, are you advocating some sort of measurement of loyalty? Because that's something difficult to put your fingers around, isn't it? That's difficult to.
Simon, that is such a lovely question. If this was a customer loyalty webinar, and by the way, I'm delivering one of those for the British Quality Foundation in December, if you're interested, is absolutely customer loyalty can be measured. I'm a huge advocate of the Net Promoter System and Net Promoter approach. Customers are wonderful. They will tell you how loyal they are if you just ask them a great question.
And that's the magic, isn't it? Knowing the question.
Well, the question, if in the Net Promoter System, the starting question, though not the only question, is to go to a customer and say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how willing would you be to recommend membership of IOSH to your colleagues and business network? Okay. And if they say 0 to 6, you will hear in their voice that they're cross, they don't like IOSH, and we'd call them a detractor. If they said 7 and 8, you would detect their boredom with the question and we'd call them a passive. And if they were about to say 9 or 10, you'd hear them smile before they said anything.
Okay. So you're advocating a more personal approach and a one-to-one kind of question and answer session than some sort of random questionnaire posted through the door.
I was just checking what my next slide is. I would say, Simon, that if you are particularly in a business to business setting, to be conducting your customer surveys by email is at best a near total waste of time, and at worst fundamentally damaging to your relationship with your customers.
Yes.
An email, so in my opinion, and I said in my apologies at the beginning that I do sometimes exaggerate to make a point. If you're trying to get customer feedback and you choose to use an email survey, which sometimes very occasionally may be appropriate. So you start your email, dear customer, we love you, we value your feedback. We value your feedback so much that we sucked your email address out of a database and sent you this email in the vague hope that you will reply.
Yeah. Good point. Well made.
Thank you. If only I knew a company like Six Pillars Consulting who were really good at doing this stuff, Simon. If only.
If only.
So yes, area number 2. And I know some of you by this moment may be thinking, good heavens, I was expecting a webinar tonight that was all about the technicalities of management system development. Well, I'm sorry if that's the case for some, and some are disappointed. I'm choosing these themes because I've been building and rescuing management systems now for 25 years. And the reasons they fail and the reasons they need rescuing are hardly ever technical ones. They're this stuff. Their lack of alignment with what the organization is trying to achieve. They are lack of insight into where customers are and what customers want. So I'll talk about employee engagement for a couple of slides. Again, with my 9001 apology, engagement of people is a quality management principle. Hooray, there's not much else in the standards. There really isn't. Again, you don't need to know this for the test, but 7.1.2 celebrates. It doesn't celebrate. It describes people as resources I don't like that very much. There is another standard which isn't so well known. If you are a quality professional or quality interested, then specifically engaging people with quality, ISO 10018 is worth a quick look. But 9001 doesn't do a good job. But employee engagement, it's a big deal. It's the extent to which the employees that we need to achieve the aims of our management systems. It's about their passion. It's about their commitment. It's about their willingness to go the extra mile, rather than just swap their time for some of your money. We need this engagement. We need people who wake up in the morning planning to have a great day at work. We need them to understand their role. We need to know how they contribute to the vision and strategy. We need to give them the chance to contribute their ideas to success. And I'm sure everyone here will say, oh yes, we have an opportunity for improvement system. Yeah, I'm sure you're actually bowled over with how many people use it. It's about clear goals, and it's about trust, and it's about empowerment, and it's about skill development. And particularly with the younger generations, it's increasingly about values. It's about organizations that have and operate with strong and authentic values built around fairness, trust, and respect. And by the way, Simon, if someone was to ask, employee engagement can be measured too. It can be measured in similar ways to customer loyalty. I don't want to put a downer on this. Far too often, though, it's not done well. It can be done by asking a long set of questions about what we think employees care about, a long list of questions what we want them to care about. We can use standard models like the 12 questions that matter, and again we can do this through email. If we do it through email, not many people reply. The results are unreliable because there's too many questions. You have no idea who actually has responded, whether they're the happy people, the sad people, or the in between. And again, this lack of respect in the relationship, that we care about your opinion as an employee, so we popped your email onto SurveyMonkey and hope for the best. So to try and stay on track.
Sorry, I was going to say there's also an art to asking the right questions, isn't there? Because you can very easily tailor the answers that you want to receive by the questions you pose.
That really, Simon, comes into that bullet point too. And again, I mean no disrespect to people who do this, but the most common employee survey is produced by HR, and it's a series of questions about 20 or so things that they want employees to care about because they do. Yeah. And that has all sorts of problems. One is you don't know if that's what the employee cares about. There's too many questions. Everyone's bored after the 5th question. We at 6 Pillars, again, we advocate telephone-based surveys for doing this. And you're quite right, the method is extremely important. We train our callers. So they ask a 0 to 10 question. For employee surveys, it's would you recommend IOSH as a place to work, for example. Question 2 is then, why did you give that score? Now, to your point, when the employee starts speaking, you can influence them by something as simple as a little noise, like oh. Now, oh signals, I like what you're saying. And on a human to human basis, you pick that up and you start talking about it more.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say something like, oh, I've now signaled my displeasure. And a lot of people in their responses will then back away from that because they think they've caused upset.
So easy.
It's incredibly easy. And particularly with employee engagement, and I would say this obviously because I have a vested interest, but it's particularly important to have this work done by an independent party.
Yeah.
When and I won't keep going into personal marketing, but when we do these contracts, it's a condition with our clients that they never ever ever ask us to say what employee said what comment. And if they ever do ask us, if they ever do put pressure on us to get that information, we never work for them again.
Right.
It's really important. So yes, as management system specialists, just wouldn't it be nice if we were able to engage our employees and to work with our other business partners? And there's another theme here that maybe as management system specialists on the customer loyalty piece, maybe we should be building those relationships with our sales and marketing teams. Maybe under this employee engagement piece, we should be building those relationships with the HR teams. And if we did have those relationships and networking in our businesses, good heavens, maybe our management systems would have that transformational impact that we were desiring. I'm going to try and keep the post going because I do love to talk, and it's nearly past already. So I'm going to talk about objectives. All management systems have objectives. In 9001, there's content. They should be aligned with the quality policy. They should be measurable. Blah 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 blah. And this is the case for all management systems, standalone or integrated. And for those objectives, we should figure out how we plan to achieve them, what we need, who will do them, etc., etc., etc. So it begs this question: with the greatest of respect, if we were to go into our organizations and do a straw poll to see who, if anyone, knew what any of our management system objectives were, how would that go? And even if they were well communicated, which they sometimes are, to what extent would achieving those objectives support the strategic success of our business? So with humble and the greatest respect, if our quality objective is to reduce scrap on our main production line from 1.2% to 1.15% over a 3-year period, is that really, not saying it's not important, not saying that the £30,000 that represents wouldn't be nice to have, but as we seek to drive that engagement with what we're doing, as we seek to have that transformational impact, is that really the limit of our ambition? So ponder number 4. Could we be doing better? Could we be having more impact if we had objectives that really made a difference, that really had our senior leaders supporting our activities, because achieving those objectives is just that important. And I also, as a quality professional, I see no limit to the scope of a quality management system. So these objectives could well be about customer loyalty, they could be about employee engagement, they could be about cash flow. But we will have more impact. We will get more top management support if we get this right. You'll be pleased to know there's only 2 to go. Culture. That little logo, top right-hand corner, that 6 pillars logo, the green shading, that's culture. I do like a bit of culture. Culture's not a new idea. Aristotle sat underneath an olive tree in Greece 400 years before Christ was born. He pondered culture. We are what we repeatedly do, he said. Another thing I like about culture, which is very similar to what Aristotle said, organizational culture is how people behave when they think no one's looking. And it's a funny old topic, organizational culture, whether that's a quality culture, a health and safety culture, pardon me, an environmentally aware culture. It excites a lot of interest. It excites a lot of chat. I go into a lot of organizations and they have posters up and they say things like, our culture is based upon openness and honesty. Let's pick on that. So I'll go into the leadership team and I say, I really liked your poster on openness and honesty. So exactly how open and honest are you? Oh dear, no one knows. No one knows. And we should. We should, because our culture should be a function of what we're trying to achieve. As management system specialists, we should know through our objectives what management system success looks like, and we should know what culture we need to achieve that. Is it a culture which is innovative or dynamic or customer focused or responsive? And I'm not saying that all those other nice things about being inclusive and open and honest, and that I'm not saying that any of those are bad things, but I am saying that if we really want our systems to succeed, we should know exactly what that culture is that we're after. And I've drifted away from my slides totally, which is not unusual. There's not an awful lot about culture in 9000 and 9001. There's a little bit in 9004. 9004 essentially says what I've said, that we should understand the attributes of the culture that we're trying to achieve to secure our objectives. If I'm not going to do that slide because I don't like it. What I am going to advocate to you is if you feel that culture is an opportunity or a challenge within your organization, please have a look at ISO 10010. It's a standard that I led the production of a couple of years ago. It's starting to get some good profile, but it really opens up this cultural discussion. And the standard itself really ties in with a lot of what I said. It advocates, understand your context, determine the cultural attributes that will help you succeed, find out where you are, improve the culture to close the gap, and then sustain and then repeat. It's a classic plan, do, check, act sort of thing around culture. We're doing some really interesting projects on this at the moment, and I was delighted last year I was one of the keynote speakers for the CQI at the annual Quality Awards and spoke about culture, and it was a joy. So yes, five of six, thank heavens. Would we be more successful? Would we be more transformative with our management systems if we really cracked this culture pace? One to go. Management review. And I'm using management review as an extract from 9001, but let's just consider management review, whatever systems we're working on. It's that occasion where we find ourselves in front of the leadership team, celebrating our achievements and looking for support. The standard 9001 says that management review is a review by top management at planned intervals of the organization's quality management system to ensure its continuing suitability, adequacy, effectiveness, and alignment with the strategic direction of the organization. And there's a lovely structure in the standard. But as I say, just picture this, whatever your management system, whatever your degree of integration, it's the time that you present the state of the nation. But the sad reality is that far too often for quality professionals, and I suspect it's the same for other disciplines, is that management review is in fact an overly long presentation by a nervous quality manager to 2/3 of the leadership team who are catching up with emails on their phone while finishing off the last few sandwiches from lunch. Typically, this painful experience only ends with most people not noticing and nothing much having changed. Now, of course, the world has changed, so the whole sandwich piece has changed. Everyone's working remotely, but now nearly everyone, not 2/3 of the leadership team catching up with their emails, nearly everybody is. Some of the leadership team are actually in other meetings at the same time. My personal record is 3 online meetings at the same time on 2 different devices. That took some thinking about. This isn't great. This isn't great. And my final ponder, I'm using management review to provoke the discussion, but it's how do we get the attention and the support of our leadership teams? And I think, and I have stolen my own slides from a different, I think it's about knowing who your customer is, knowing how you can ring the right bells. I don't not sure what I plan to say there, but how through these reviews, how you can give your audience what they want, something that will amuse, something that will entertain. And we're not terribly good at this, terribly good. I picked up some job descriptions. I picked up a job description for a quality manager and found that communication was something like the 22nd most important skill, perceived skill for a quality manager. I found that for sales and marketing specialists, communication was just seen as fundamental. And I pondered at the time what this meant for us again as management system specialists. I'll share with you my first management review. And apologies particularly to Simon, who may have seen this before. For my first ever quality management review, I'd been the quality manager for 4 days. And I wanted to make an impact. So I went into the boardroom with a big cardboard box and no slides. And the first thing I took out of my cardboard box was a bag of potatoes that I had purchased from Tesco's. And I explained that in the process I was about to celebrate, that the potatoes were my raw materials and Tesco's were my supplier. I started to peel potatoes. I explained that was a process with an input and output. I explained that that created waste. I explained that as I moved on to start cutting the potatoes up, which I actually did on the boardroom table, that those activities had health and safety implications. I produced cooking oil. I explained about hazardous substances. I had a deep fat fryer. I decided not to turn that on, but I bought some stage plastic chips. And I explained about added value, and I explained that my wonderful chips would lead to customer delight and that getting feedback to understand that would be useful. As a consequence of this management review, not only did I secure interest and engagement with my quality management system, but the very next day, the post of quality manager was elevated to that of quality director. It had never been a director role in the organisation before. I was chuffed. And I gave everyone that was at that meeting a plastic stage potato so that they would remember. They would remember that management review. Even if they didn't remember the detail of my management review, they would remember that they were there. And if anyone doesn't believe me, those are the stage chips. And that's the stage potato. And I've actually got those up on my shelf just to one side. So my sixth and last ponder for this evening is, do we think our deployment of integrated management systems would be more effective and more eagerly and management reviews more eagerly anticipated? Well, if we could just make them so. So I do apologise that some of the content, certainly the tone and the presentation style, may not have been exactly what IOSH are used to. I actually don't apologise for that even slightly. Simon knows that.
Yeah, no, please don't.
I really don't apologise. What I wanted to do, though, is to equip you, whether you're dealing with health and safety, whether you're dealing with the environment, whether you're dealing with quality management systems or financial management systems or HR management systems or an integrated management systems. I just wanted to help and to provoke some thought as some levers that we might pull to have that dramatic impact. And those levers are that alignment with what the business is trying to achieve, that focus on customer loyalty, that desire to build employee engagement, that need to have some objectives that make a damn of difference, a focus on culture that's going to support what we're trying to achieve, and a celebration of our achievements through consequentially impactful management review. That's what I wanted to do. I hope in some small way I've made a difference to your work lives. And if you have any questions, I would be delighted to try and answer them.
So there's a couple of questions that have come up in the chat, Mark. The first one is, in an integrated management system, should quality lead or could health and safety or environmental take the lead?
Well, here's the thing. I can answer this with personal safety because we're not in the room. In my humble opinion, a quality management system, its scope is everything. And our processes related to health and safety are are very important processes within the QMS, Simon. In my thinking,
Mm-hmm.
quality covers health and safety, environment, HR, finance, production, everything. So yes, so I do see quality as the senior management system, but it absolutely requires on wonderful, competent process owners in things like health and safety. I love health and safety systems.
Yeah. I think for me, the key is the integration piece. It
Yes,
doesn't really matter to me who leads, whether it's quality or it's health and safety or environment, as long as the systems are properly integrated and there will each be champions in their own areas.
yeah.
Definitely. Okay. The second question is I get the thinking outside of the box. Is this a step too far when dealing with people who don't care or auditors that are only there to tick a clause?
Well, there's a thing. There's a thing. So speaking to the audience, every approach must be contextual. You have to look at your organization and you have to say, in the fullness of time, I would love my organization to be the exciting, vigorous nirvana that Mark has described, but we're not there yet. So the first brick in the wall, as you say, is something a little bit more functional. Yeah. On a personal level, it frightens me that I am now 61 years old. I don't have that much time left. I do not now do any work with any organization who just wants to tick the certification box with the minimum effort. I value my remaining days far too much, Simon, and I would encourage everyone who can to think in a similar way.
I agree. I agree. And I think the 2 points to that question, the dealing with people piece who don't care, people who don't care, is to a certain extent about employee engagement. It's finding out how you can turn them around from not caring to actually showing an interest in the
Yes,
system and taking some ownership, taking some responsibility
yeah,
in that place.
yeah. The analogy I use is you're looking at someone who won't engage, say, with what you're trying to do around health and safety. They stubbornly will not engage. So I ponder the question, if I gave them £1 million, would they engage? Yeah, probably they would. We've now got proof of concept. All I need to do is figure out how to achieve the same level of engagement without the £1 million, but the concept has been proven.
And then the second part of the question about there to tick a clause, I think the auditors, there are various different grades, qualities, levels of expertise with the auditing community. But I also think there's a level of expertise within the organizations managing those expectations. And there will be a tick for the box, but it's just finding the right answer so the auditor is satisfied and educating them about the organization and the way the business works. I think managing auditors is an art in its own respect. That's perhaps where the quality manager comes into their own, Mark, just to wave your
I think there's a number of parts to that. First of all, there are some organizations, many, where detailed compliance is extremely important. So having a large number of boxes ticked is genuinely extremely important. So I don't discount that, but I do advocate that for most organizations, having an impactful management system is not necessarily the same thing as getting your certification through.
Yeah.
And I would also advocate that if you have management system auditors who are not adding value to what you're trying to achieve through their activities, find another certification body.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. It is ultimately a service you're paying for, and you want them to add value.
Yes. Yes. And I think and I'm not stupid, we don't want to run the risk of losing our certifications, and the auditors obviously are not there as consultants. But if you end an audit without having been provoked to think about a few things, it's not been a good audit.
No, no. Equally, it's not a good audit if you come away with 100% score and no feedback at all.
It's yes, I agree completely.
Okay. All right. There's no other questions that have come through, Mark. So obviously you've dazzled them entirely with your presentation and the concepts that you've presented to us.
Is there
And not
anyone who
threatened them with an
actually
axe at all.
verbally would like to jump in with a question? I'd hate to deny them the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Shyness.
Absolute shyness.
Yeah.
So I
One thing I
think
would say, in all seriousness, Simon, I gave my apologies at the beginning that I was going to say some things dramatically. If anyone would like to explore any of those further, you can find me on LinkedIn and drop me a message really easily. And I don't know if you collect formal feedback from the event, Simon, but please, if people have found some of this useful and other parts less clear, I'd be delighted to have that feedback, because this is the first time I've put this content together in this sort of deck. So what sort of quality professional would I be if I wasn't open to doing better next
if you
time?
weren't prepared to receive some feedback. There has been another question come through while you were speaking. So,
Yeah.
do you think a management system benefits a B2C type business, specifically a hospitality business?
Yes. The only aspect, and this is just such a tiny difference, is that on the topics I've had, getting feedback from customers in a B2C business is a little bit different. But absolutely, all businesses have processes that benefit from being properly considered and communicated. I think part of the problem, Simon, is that quality management systems are seen often with such a narrow focus. They're just about making stuff, not about
Yeah.
making stuff. They're about everything that's important. And that can include how a member of staff at a bar interacts with a customer on a busy Friday afternoon. Why on earth isn't that a process that that can be done well?
And it will reflect in how well it's done on that repeat customer loyalty, which was your second point.
Yeah.
So, from my point of view, thank you very much for joining us, Mark. I really appreciate your time this evening and the time that you've put into putting the materials together. I think you've set some interesting challenges for us all to take away and take back to the workplace, and some questions to ponder, as you said, for ourselves over the rest of this evening, if not the rest of the week and the month.
Splendid.
So I would like to thank you very much for your time. And
remarkably, we've ended up pretty much bang on at 8 o'clock, which was sort of the objective. So
we have.
Go
So you've
figure.
achieved one of your objectives.
Yeah.
All right. So
Lovely.
thank you,
Thank you,
everybody,
everyone.
for
Thank you so
joining.
much for your time. I've enjoyed it. As you said, Simon, I hope if people can just take away one thing to ponder, then it's not been a bad evening.
Thank you very